Every deal, every agreement, every single contract has a life cycle. It starts with a promise, right? But how does it end? We're going to see that understanding the end of a contract is actually just as important as knowing how to start one.
We love to say, a deal is a deal. We think of contracts as being totally ironclad. But the truth is, they end all the time, and for a whole bunch of different reasons. So once the ink is dry and the promises are made, what are the ways a deal can officially be, well, over? Let's dive in.
Okay, to make this all super clear, we're going to follow one simple story from start to finish. So picture this. You've planned the event of the year. You've found this fantastic caterer, and you've both signed a detailed contract. Everything is set. This one catering contract is going to be our guide through the 4 main ways a deal can come to an end.
All right, first up, let's talk about the ideal scenario. This is the happy ending everyone is hoping for when they sign on that dotted line.
It really is as simple as it sounds. The caterer shows up, the food is incredible, your guests are happy, and you pay the bill, just like you agreed. Boom. Both of you have done exactly what you promised to do. The contract's job is done, and it's over. This is called discharge by performance, and it's by far the most common and successful way a contract ends.
But what if things change? Life happens, plans get thrown for a loop. Sometimes the best way out is for both people to just shake hands and agree to go their separate ways. So one way you can do this is with something called novation. Let's go back to our caterer. Say their specialty is Italian food, but you suddenly get a craving for a French menu. Your caterer, being a great person, recommends a colleague who's a French chef. If you, your original caterer, and the new French caterer all agree to swap out the old contract for a new one, well, that's novation. The original contract is discharged, and the new one just takes its place.
Or there's an even simpler path called rescission. Maybe your whole event just gets canceled. You call the caterer, you explain what's going on, and you both just agree to cancel the whole thing. As long as nobody's really done their part of the deal yet, you can mutually agree to rescind the contract. It just frees both of you from your obligations. Easy peasy.
So far, we have talked about endings that are basically within everyone's control. But what happens when a curveball gets thrown that is completely out of anyone's hands? Okay, this is where things get really interesting. This brings us to something called the doctrine of frustration. Now, the key here is that some massive, totally unforeseen event happens after you've signed the contract, and it makes doing the deal physically or legally impossible. It's not that someone just changed their mind, it's that the entire reason for the agreement has been completely wiped out by something nobody could have seen coming. Now, this is a really crucial distinction to make. Let's say the price of tomatoes for your caterer sauce suddenly skyrockets. That's just commercial hardship. Yeah, it makes the job less profitable, maybe a lot harder, but it's not impossible. The contract is still valid. Frustration, on the other hand, that's when the venue for your event burns to the ground. See the difference? Performance isn't just harder. The entire point of the catering contract has been destroyed.
And here are 2 classic, real-life cases that just nail this concept. In Taylor v. Caldwell, a contract to rent a music hall was totally frustrated when, you guessed it, the hall burned down. No hall, no concert, contract's over. Then there's Crail v. Henry. A guy rented a room just to watch King Edward VII's coronation parade, but then the king got sick and the parade was postponed. The room was still there, but its entire purpose for that contract, watching the parade, was gone. Frustrated.
So what's the bottom line here? When a contract is frustrated, it becomes void. It's just gone. And legally, that means any money that's changed hands, like a deposit, has to be returned. So if your event venue burned down, that frustrated catering contract means you get your deposit back from the caterer.
Okay, that brings us to our final category, discharge by breach. And this one isn't about mutual agreement or some act of God. This is about one person simply breaking their promise.
And a really important type of breach is called anticipatory breach. This one is a big deal. Imagine your caterer calls you a week before your event and says, "Hey, sorry, I just booked a much better paying gig, so I'm canceling on you." They haven't actually failed to show up yet, right? The day hasn't come. But they have clearly told you they are not going to perform. That right there is an anticipatory breach.
The second that happens, the law gives you, the innocent party, 2 very different choices. Option 1, you can accept their cancellation immediately. You can say, fine, the deal is off, and then you can immediately sue them for damages, to cover the extra cost of finding a new caterer at the last minute.
Or, option 2, you can refuse to accept their cancellation. You can insist the contract is still on and just wait and see if they have a change of heart and actually show up on the day.
But, and this is a huge but, choosing option 2 is a massive gamble. If you decide to keep that contract alive, you are taking on a serious risk. Why? Because if, in that week leading up to the event, the venue burns down, the contract would then be discharged by frustration, and that caterer who's about to bail on you, they're now legally off the hook. You completely lose your right to sue them for their original breach. It's a huge risk.
So let's wrap this all up with our catering story. Here are the 4 endings we talked about. Performance. The event is a smashing success. Agreement. You both shake hands and agree to cancel. Frustration. An unforeseen disaster like the venue burning down makes the whole thing impossible. And breach. The caterer just breaks their promise and leaves you scrambling.
So, why do we need to know all these different legal terms? Why does all this matter? Well, because the way a contract ends has huge real-world consequences. Look, understanding these 4 paths is all about protecting yourself. It's what determines if you get your deposit back because of frustration or if you have the right to sue for a whole lot more because of a breach. This knowledge gives you the power to navigate your agreements and actually enforce your rights when things don't go the way you planned.
So I'll leave you with this question. A contract isn't just about a hopeful beginning. It's a roadmap that really should account for all the possible destinations. So the next time you sign something, ask yourself, am I only thinking about the beginning, or am I truly prepared for the end?